Captain Frank Miller stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, his heart beating faster than usual. This was the moment humanity had waited for. First contact with the Galactic Council. After decades of searching the stars, humans were finally meeting aliens face to face. "All systems ready, Captain," said Lieutenant Kate Howard from her station. Her voice was steady, but Frank could see the excitement in her eyes. "Take us in, Lieutenant." "Nice and easy," Frank said. The sleek diplomatic vessel moved smoothly toward the meeting point, just beyond Mars' orbit. The alien ships appeared suddenly. They did not use any form of jump drive known to humans. One moment empty space, the next moment 5 massive ships with strange glowing lines across their hulls. The largest was at least 20 times the size of the Horizon. "My God," whispered Eric Taylor, the ship's lead scientist. "Their technology must be centuries ahead of ours." Admiral Susan Grant, Earth's military representative, narrowed her eyes. "Don't look impressed, everyone. Remember your training. We represent all of humanity today." The main screen lit up with the faces of the aliens. 3 different species sat in what looked like a council chamber. The ones in the middle had blue skin and large black eyes. Those on the left were insect-like with multiple arms. The right side held reptilian beings with scaled faces. "Greetings from the Galactic Council," said the blue alien in perfect English. "I am High Counselor Vex of the Silurians. We welcome Earth to the galactic community." Frank stepped forward. "On behalf of the United Earth Government, we thank you for this historic meeting." The talks went on for hours. The aliens explained their council ruled over 300 star systems. They spoke of peace and cooperation, but Admiral Grant kept noticing small things that worried her. The way they looked at humans, the terms they used, how they kept calling humans young ones and developing species. During a break, she pulled Frank aside. "Captain, something's off here. They're being too nice while offering us nothing." Frank nodded. "I noticed that too. They keep talking about protection but not partnership." Back in the meeting room, High Counselor Vex smiled too widely. "As is customary, Earth will join as a protected territory. In 50 of your years, if your development is acceptable, you may apply for associate status." "Protected territory?" Frank asked. "We came here seeking equal membership." The insect-like alien clicked something in its language before the translator kicked in. "Equal? Humans are barely space-capable. You are evolutionarily immature. This is a generous offer." While the diplomats argued, Eric Taylor was in the ship's lab studying the alien transmission signals. He had set up a program to decode their encrypted channels out of scientific curiosity. What he found made his blood run cold. "Captain Miller," he called over the private channel. "They're planning something. I've partially decoded their secondary communications. They keep mentioning pacification and resource acquisition when talking about Earth." Frank kept his face neutral while listening. "Keep working on it, Eric. Get me proof." Admiral Grant leaned over to Frank. "We need to leave now. Send warning to Earth." Frank nodded slightly and turned to the aliens. "Council members, we appreciate your time. We need to return to Earth to discuss your offer with our government." The reptilian alien's eyes narrowed. "So soon? We have barely begun the orientation process." "It's our protocol," Frank said firmly. "We'll return with our response." The blue alien Vex smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Of course, we understand protocols. Please take whatever time you need." As the human delegation started to leave, Eric rushed in with a data pad. "Captain, I've decoded more. They're not letting us leave. They have weapons locked on us right now." The ship suddenly shook violently. Red lights flashed everywhere. "We're under attack," Lieutenant Howard shouted from her station. "Multiple energy weapons hitting our shields." Frank grabbed the nearest communication panel. "This is Captain Miller to all crew. Get to escape pods immediately. This is not a drill." The ship rocked. Again, harder this time. Support beams crashed down from the ceiling. Fire broke out in the science lab. "They're jamming our transmissions," Eric shouted over the alarms. "We can't warn Earth." Admiral Grant pulled her sidearm. "Get the data Eric decoded. Earth needs to know what we're up against." Frank nodded grimly. "Lieutenant Howard, take command of evacuation. Get as many people to the escape pods as possible." Another explosion ripped through the ship. The lights went out, replaced by dim emergency lighting. "Captain, main engines are gone. Life support failing," Kate reported, her face lit by the red emergency lights. Bodies were thrown across the bridge as another hit landed. Frank saw Admiral Grant hit her head hard against a console. He rushed to her, checking for a pulse. "Nothing. We've lost the Admiral," he said grimly. "Eric, do you have the data?" The scientist held up a small drive. "All here. Everything I decoded." "Get to the pods," Frank ordered. "Kate, you go with him. Make sure the data reaches Earth." Kate shook her head. "Sir, protocol says you should—" "That's an order, Lieutenant," Frank said firmly. "I'll get the rest of the crew moving." As Kate and Eric ran for the escape pods, Frank moved through the burning ship, helping injured crew members. The ship's structure was failing around them. He managed to get 15 more people to escape pods before a massive explosion threw him against a wall. Pain shot through his body. He knew he wouldn't make it to a pod. Using the last of his strength, he dragged himself to a console. "This is Captain Frank Miller of the UES Horizon," he recorded, coughing blood. "We were attacked without provocation by the Galactic Council. This is not a misunderstanding. They planned this. Lieutenant Howard has critical intel. Earth, prepare, they're coming." He sent the message on all frequencies, hoping at least one would get through the jamming. On the last functioning escape pod, Kate Howard strapped herself in next to Eric. 5 other survivors huddled in the small space. "Launching now," she said. Hitting the release button, the pod shot away from the dying ship. Through the small viewport, they watched in horror as the horizon broke apart, consumed by explosions. Kate fought back tears as she programmed the fastest course to Earth. And no. "Anyone else make it out?" asked one of the crew members. Kate checked the pod's sensors. "I'm tracking 3 other pods, the rest—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "The aliens are tracking us," Eric said, pointing at the sensor display. "They're coming after the escape pods." Kate's jaw tightened. "Not if I can help it." She was the best pilot on the horizon. If anyone could get them home, she could. She guided the pod into Mars orbit using the planet's gravity to gain speed while hiding from the alien sensors. One by one, the signals from the other escape pods disappeared from her screen. "We're the only ones left," she whispered. Eric clutched the data drive. "Then we have to make it. For everyone we lost today. For Earth." Kate nodded and pushed the engines beyond safety limits. They had to reach Earth. They had to warn everyone. The Galactic Council wasn't coming in peace, they were coming for war. 5 years passed since the attack on the UES Horizon. Lieutenant Kate Howard was now Colonel Howard, one of the top military advisors to the United Earth Defense Force. Her escape pod had been the only one to reach Earth. The data she and Eric Taylor brought back changed everything. Earth knew an invasion was coming. The whole planet united under the threat. Old enemies became allies. Resources poured into defense and weapons research. The people of Earth prepared for a fight they might not win. Dr. Alan Cooper stared at his computer screen in the lunar dark matter research facility. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. For 3 years, he had worked on the same problem: how to harness dark matter as an energy source. The regular science team had gone to bed hours ago, but Alan couldn't sleep. He was close to something important. "Computer, run simulation 372B again," he said, sipping cold coffee. The screen showed particles moving in patterns. Most scientists believed dark matter couldn't interact with normal matter. Alan believed they were wrong. They just hadn't found the right frequency. The simulation finished. Alan frowned at the results. Something was still missing. He made a small change to the input values and tried again. This time, the screen lit up with new patterns. Alan sat up straight. "Oh my God," he whispered. "Computer, verify these results." The computer beeped. Results verified. Dark matter energy. Extraction at 87% efficiency. Alan's hands shook as he reached for his phone. "Get me General Hall. Now." 2 days later, Alan stood in a large conference room at the United Earth Defense Headquarters. General Diane Hall looked at him with serious eyes. "You're saying we can use dark matter as a power source?" she asked. Not just power, Alan said. The way it interacts with normal matter, we can use it to phase objects, make them partially exist outside normal space. William Chen, the chief engineer, leaned forward. Are you saying we could make ships that pass through solid objects? In theory, yes, and there's more. Alan pulled up new diagrams on the screen. If we can harness dark matter this way, we can also use it as a weapon, one that no conventional shield could stop. General Hall stood up. Dr. Cooper, how quickly can you build a prototype? With the right team and resources, 6 months for a small test device. You have 3 months and whatever you need. General Hall looked around the room. This is now Project Shadow Fleet. Top priority. Nothing gets out of this room. The prototype was ready in 4 months. They built it in a secret facility inside an asteroid between Mars and Jupiter. The first ship, UES Nightshade, looked strange compared to regular spaceships. Its hull was dull black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Strange patterns ran across its surface, pulsing with faint blue energy. Captain Peter Ross walked around the ship, examining it from all angles. Will it actually work? He asked William Chen. William nodded. The small-scale tests were successful. The dark matter drive allows the ship to phase through normal matter. Enemy weapons should pass right through when the drive is activated. And our weapons? William smiled. The Eclipse cannon works too. It uses dark matter to destabilize molecular bonds in target ships. In simple terms, it pulls them apart at a fundamental level. Peter whistled. No wonder this is all so secret. The Council has spies everywhere, William said. If they knew what we were building, they'd attack before we were ready, Peter finished. The test flight was scheduled for the next day. Peter gathered his volunteer crew, 30 of Earth's best pilots, engineers, and scientists. All had lost someone when the Horizon was destroyed. I won't lie to you, Peter told them. This technology is new. We don't know all the risks, but if it works, it gives Earth a chance against the Council's armada. Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez, the weapons officer, spoke up. Better to die testing this than wait for the aliens to kill us all. The test flight began at 600 hours. The Nightshade left the asteroid base slowly. Dark matter drive charging, reported the engineer Jason White. Ready on your mark, Captain. Peter took a deep breath. Engage dark matter drive. The ship shuddered. The lights dimmed for a moment, then came back brighter. A strange humming filled the air. Drive engaged, Jason said. We are now partially phased. Peter looked at the sensor screen. Test 1. Take us through the small asteroid at Mark 247. Maria looked nervous. Sir, that's a solid rock. If the drive fails, we'll be paced, Peter said calmly. Proceed. The Nightshade moved toward the asteroid. The crew held their breath as the ship approached the solid rock. Then, impossibly, they passed through it. The asteroid seemed to ghost through the ship like smoke. Cheers broke out on the bridge. Test 2, Peter said. Weapons. They positioned near an uninhabited asteroid. Maria charged the Eclipse cannon. Target locked, she said. Firing in 3, 2, 1. A beam of dark blue energy shot from the ship. When it hit the asteroid, there was no explosion. Instead, the rock simply came apart, breaking into smaller and smaller pieces until nothing remained but dust. The tests continued for hours. By the end, everyone was tired but excited. The technology worked. They could build a fleet that could fight back against the Council. When they returned to the base, General Hall was waiting. Her face was grim. Our long-range sensors just picked up the Council fleet, she said. They'll reach Earth in 6 months. Peter looked at her. How many ships? Over 300. Our conventional fleet won't stand a chance. Then we need more ships like the Nightshade. General Hall nodded. We've already started production on 11 more. Admiral Lisa Wright will command the Shadow Fleet. News of the invasion spread quickly. Earth's conventional fleet prepared for battle, knowing they were likely sacrificing themselves to buy time. Meanwhile, the Shadow Fleet grew in secret. William Chen worked without rest, improving the dark matter technology. He managed to create a smaller version of the drive that could be worn by soldiers. This will let strike teams phase through enemy ships, he explained to Admiral Wright. They can board any vessel without cutting through hulls. Admiral Wright nodded. How many can you make? Enough for 3 strike teams. Lieutenant Rodriguez will lead them. 6 months later, Earth received the message everyone feared. Attention, people of Earth. This is Supreme Commander Zax Thriel of the Galactic Council. Your planet is now under our control. Surrender immediately and submit to Council authority, or face extinction. You have 24 hours to comply. Earth's conventional fleet moved to defensive positions. The Shadow Fleet remained hidden inside Earth's moon, waiting for the right moment to reveal humanity's secret weapon. The invasion had begun, but this time, Earth was ready. Earth's conventional fleet fought bravely. 150 ships against over 300 alien vessels. They knew they were outmatched. They knew most of them would die, but they fought anyway, buying time for the real plan. Supreme Commander Zax Thriel watched from his command ship as Earth's defenses crumbled. His large-scaled face showed no emotion as human ships exploded one after another on his view screen. Pathetic, he said to his officers. They should have surrendered when they had the chance. His second-in-command, a blue-skinned Silurian, nodded. The invasion is proceeding as expected, Supreme Commander. Their largest ships are already destroyed. The rest will fall within the hour. Zax Thriel stood from his command chair. Prepare the landing forces. I want control of their major cities by tomorrow, and open a channel to their leaders. I will give them one last chance to surrender before we begin orbital bombardment. On Earth, in the underground command center beneath what was once New York City, General Diane Hall watched the battle with a grim face. Colonel Kate Howard stood beside her, remembering her escape from the horizon 5 years ago. The fleet is almost gone, Kate said quietly. General Hall nodded. They knew what they were signing up for. She turned to her communications officer. Connect me to Admiral Wright. Inside Earth's moon, in a hollow space large enough to hold 12 warships, Admiral Lisa Wright received the call. It's time, General Hall said over the secure line. The Council thinks they've won. Spring the trap. Admiral Wright's face hardened. With pleasure, General. She turned to her crew on the flagship UES Shadow. All ships power up dark matter drives. Prepare to move out. Remember your training. Stay phased until my command. 12 ships powered up in perfect silence. The dark matter drives hummed with energy. The ships began to move, passing through the solid rock of the moon as if it wasn't there. On the Council command ship, an alarm sounded. Supreme Commander, a sensor officer called out. Energy readings coming from Earth's moon. Something's coming out. Zax Thriel frowned. What? Show me. The main screen shifted to show the dark surface of the moon. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then slowly, 12 black ships emerged from the lunar surface. They didn't break through the surface. They passed through it like ghosts. What kind of technology is this? Zax Thriel demanded. Identify those ships. Unable to get clear. Reading, Supreme Commander. The sensor officer replied, panic in his voice. Our scans pass right through them. Admiral Wright stood on the bridge of the UES Shadow, watching the Council fleet grow larger on her view screen. All ships maintain phase state, she ordered. Captain Johnson, you will demonstrate the eclipse cannon on my mark. Yes, Admiral, replied Greg Johnson from the UES Phantom, the fleet's heavy weapons ship. The Shadow Fleet moved silently toward the Council Armada. None of the alien weapons could target them properly. Energy beams and plasma bolts passed harmlessly through the human ships. They can't hurt us, Admiral Wright said with satisfaction. Captain Johnson, target their largest ship and fire when ready. On the Phantom, Captain Greg Johnson locked the Eclipse cannon on Zax Thriel's massive command ship. Target locked, he reported. Firing Eclipse cannon. A beam of dark blue energy shot out from the Phantom, striking the Council command ship. Unlike conventional weapons, there was no explosion. Instead, the massive alien vessel seemed to shimmer for a moment. Then it began to break apart, section by section, dissolving into floating particles. The Council fleet erupted into chaos. Ships began firing randomly. trying to hit the phantom-like human vessels. Some turned to flee, only to find their engines suddenly failing. "The dark matter field generators are working," Admiral Wright noted with satisfaction. "They can't escape." Into FTL. On the UES Shadow, Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez prepared her strike team. 3 groups of soldiers wearing dark matter phase suits stood ready in the launch bay. "Strike teams ready, Admiral," Maria reported over the comm. "Proceed with boarding operations," Admiral Wright ordered. "Disable their communication systems. I want them isolated and unable to call for help." Maria led her team onto a transport. When the doors closed, she addressed her soldiers. "Remember your training," she said firmly. "We'll phase directly into their ships. They won't be able to touch us as long as our suits are active. Place the disruptors on their key systems and get out. Don't try to fight them directly." The transport launched from the Shadow, heading toward a Council battle cruiser. As they approached, Maria activated her phase suit. "Phase active," she confirmed. "Taking us in." The transport passed through the hull of the alien ship as if it wasn't there. Inside, alien crew members ran in panic as alarms blared. None of them noticed the transport passing through their walls. Maria and her team exited the transport, moving like ghosts through the alien vessel. The Council soldiers couldn't see or touch them in their phased state. Maria led her team to the ship's engine room. They placed dark matter disruptors on key systems, then returned to their transport. Once safely away, Maria deactivated the disruptors remotely. The alien ship's engines shut down completely. Similar scenes played out across the Council fleet. Human strike teams disabled ship after ship without firing a single shot. The mighty Council armada was quickly becoming a collection of floating, powerless hulks. On his personal shuttle, having barely escaped his dissolving command ship, Supreme Commander Zaxathriel watched in horror as his invasion force fell apart. "Impossible," he whispered. "How can they have this technology? They're primitives." His shuttle shook as it was caught in a tractor beam from the UES Shadow. Admiral Wright's face appeared on his communication screen. "Supreme Commander Zaxathriel," she said calmly. "This is Admiral Lisa Wright of the United Earth Defense Force. Your invasion has failed. Your fleet is disabled. You are now our prisoner." Zaxathriel's scales darkened with rage. "You cannot do this. The Council will send more ships. We will reduce your world to ash." Admiral Wright smiled coldly. "I don't think so. You see, we've been studying your communication systems. Right now, we're broadcasting this battle to every world in the Council. They're all watching your defeat." She leaned closer to the screen. "You came to our world offering us status as a protected territory. Now we offer you the same. Surrender and Earth will be merciful. Continue to fight and we will show you just how effective our dark matter weapons can be." Throughout the Council fleet, alien crews watched their mighty warships fall one by one to weapons they couldn't understand and enemies they couldn't fight. Fear replaced confidence. Panic replaced order. The battle that was supposed to be a simple conquest had become a nightmare. Humanity's dark matter warships had changed everything. The Council's age of easy domination was over, and Earth was just getting started. News of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from all member species gathered in the Great Hall on the Council homeworld of Axelnar. The mood was dark and fearful. High Counselor Vex of the Silurians banged his ceremonial staff on the floor. "This meeting will come to order," he shouted over the chaos of arguing voices. The hall gradually quieted, but the tension remained thick in the air. "We face an unprecedented crisis," Vex continued. "The human fleet has destroyed our invasion force using technology we cannot explain." A Vosk representative stood up, his insect-like form trembling with anger. "The blame falls on the military. Supreme Commander Zaxathriel assured us humans were primitive. He said victory was certain." "Zaxathriel has been captured," Vex replied, grimly, "along with most of our command staff." Another counselor, a small blue-skinned Thalaxian, spoke up. "Perhaps we should not have attacked Earth at all. First contact protocols were not properly followed." "Silence," roared the Vosk representative. "Are you defending these humans? They have weapons that dissolve ships. They walk through walls like ghosts. They must be destroyed before they come for us all. As the council meeting descended into accusations and fear, a different scene played out on Earth. Dr. Nicole Murphy, Earth's top xenolinguist, prepared to lead a diplomatic mission to Axelnar. The UES Eclipse, a dark matter diplomatic vessel, would take her there. "Are you sure this is safe?" General Hall asked as they walked toward the ship. Nicole nodded. "We need to press our advantage while they're still in shock. Show them we want peace, not conquest." "Even after what they tried to do to us?" "Especially after that," Nicole said firmly. "We need to be better than them." The Eclipse departed Earth with a small security team. Thanks to its dark matter drive, the journey that would normally take weeks was completed in days. When they arrived at Axelnar, the planet's defensive grid was on high alert. "Axelnar Defense Command to unknown vessel," came a nervous voice over the communication system. "Identify yourself immediately or be fired upon." Captain Steve Bennett, commanding the Eclipse, smiled slightly. "This is Captain Bennett of the United Earth diplomatic vessel Eclipse. We carry Earth's diplomatic delegation to address the Council." There was a long pause. You are not authorized to approach. Our defense grid will—" "Your defense grid cannot stop us," Captain Bennett interrupted calmly. "But we come in peace. We will proceed to the designated diplomatic landing area." The Eclipse moved forward, passing through the defense grid as if it wasn't there. Weapon platforms fired automatically, but the energy beams passed harmlessly through the ship's phased hull. On the planet's surface, panic spread as word of the approaching human ship reached the Council. Guards rushed to secure the Great Hall. High Counselor Vex tried desperately to maintain order. "They cannot harm us here," he assured the frightened representatives. "The Great Hall is protected by our strongest shields." The words had barely left his mouth when the doors opened. Nicole Murphy walked in with her team, having passed through all security barriers without effort. The Council representatives gasped and backed away. "Greetings," Nicole said calmly. "I am Dr. Nicole Murphy, representing the United Earth government. I come with an offer of peace." "How did you get past our defenses?" Vex demanded, trying to hide his fear. "The same way our fleet defeated yours," Nicole replied. "Technology you chose not to believe we could develop." As the formal talks began, something unexpected happened. Several Council species approached, the human delegation privately. The Thalaxians were the first. "We have long disagreed with the Council's policy of suppressing younger species," said lead scientist Mortek. "We would like to discuss a separate alliance with Earth." Similar approaches came from 4 other species, all smaller members who had chafed under Kalurian and Vosk dominance. Meanwhile, Captain Steve Bennett made a disturbing discovery. While exploring the Council archives, which their phase technology made easy to access, he found evidence of a systematic pattern. "They've been doing this for thousands of years," he told Nicole during a private meeting. "Find promising species, attack them early in their space development, force them into protected status. It keeps everyone under control." Nicole frowned. "How many species have they done this to?" "At least 30, Steve said. Some resisted, and were wiped out completely. We're the first to ever defeat their invasion force." Back on Earth, communications specialist Kevin Hayes detected unusual activity in the Council's military networks. "General Hall," he reported urgently, "I'm picking up encrypted communications between surviving Council military leaders. They're planning something." General Hall leaned over his station. "Can you decode it?" "Working on it," Kevin replied, his fingers flying over his console. "It looks like... yes. Grand Admiral Kruvak is gathering the remaining Council forces for an all-out attack on Earth, a suicide run." General Hall immediately contacted Admiral Wright, who was overseeing the integration of captured Council technology into Earth's defense network. "How long until they arrive?" Admiral Wright asked. "Based on their current position, 3 days," Kevin answered. "They're throwing everything they have left at us, approximately 70 ships." Admiral Wright nodded grimly. "Alert the Shadow Fleet. We'll prepare an ambush at the edge of our solar system. On Axelnar, Nicole received the news during negotiations. High Counselor Vex pretended to know nothing about the planned attack. "This proves your kind cannot be trusted," Nicole said, rising from her seat. "We came offering peace while your military prepares another attack." "The military acts on its own," Vex protested weakly. "The Council has no control." "You are the Council," Nicole interrupted. "If you cannot control your military, then perhaps Earth needs to negotiate with someone who can." She turned to the Thalaxian and other sympathetic representatives. "Those who wish for true peace with Earth, we welcome you. The rest should consider the consequences of continued aggression." 3 days later, Grand Admiral Kruvak led his fleet toward Earth, his face set with determination. "We will not surrender." "To primitives," he told his officers. "If we must die to protect the Council's dominance, so be it. Prepare the antimatter warheads." What Kruvak didn't know was that Kevin Hayes's early warning system had given Earth plenty of time to prepare. The Shadow Fleet waited in phased state, invisible to Council sensors. As the Council fleet approached Neptune's orbit, Admiral Wright gave the order. "All ships dephase and engage targets. Disable engines first, weapons second, try to take prisoners when possible." The Shadow Fleet appeared seemingly out of nowhere, surrounding the Council vessels. The Eclipse cannons fired with surgical precision, dissolving engine sections without destroying the ships completely. In his command ship, Grand Admiral Kruvak watched in horror as his fleet was systematically disabled. His own ship shuddered as its engines dissolved into particles. "Launch the warheads!" he screamed. "Launch everything!" But it was too late. Strike teams had already boarded his ship in phase suits. Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez herself walked onto the bridge, passing through walls and guards as if they were mist. "Grand Admiral Kruvak," she said calmly, "your attack has failed. Your warheads have been disabled. You are now a prisoner of Earth." As the last Council ship went dark, a message was broadcast across the galaxy on all frequencies. Admiral Wright's face appeared on countless screens across thousands of worlds. "The Galactic Council's era of conquest and domination is over," she announced. "A new age is beginning. One of true cooperation and respect. Earth extends a hand of friendship to all peaceful species. Those who choose war will find we are more than capable of defending ourselves." The message ended with images of the Council's defeat. There could be no denying the new reality. Humanity had changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. 3 months after the defeat of Grand Admiral Kruvak's fleet, representatives from 27 species gathered on neutral ground. The meeting place was a space station orbiting a star at the edge of what was once Council space. Humans had built the station in just 2 months using their dark matter technology. Vice Admiral Daniel Barnes led the Earth delegation. At 56, he had more diplomatic experience than most in Earth's military. His calm, steady voice had a way of making even the most nervous aliens feel at ease. "We are not here to create a new empire," Daniel told the gathered representatives. "Earth has no desire to simply replace the Council as the galaxy's rulers." The aliens murmured among themselves. Some looked relieved, others suspicious. "Then what do you want?" asked the Silurian delegate, one of the few Council species that had been invited. "A true partnership," Daniel replied. "A galactic cooperative, where all species have equal standing, regardless of their technological development." The Thalaxian representative Mortek nodded in agreement. "My people support this vision. For too long, the Council used technology as a tool of control rather than progress." The talks continued for days. Old enemies sat across from each other, forced to consider new ways of interacting. The humans, with their powerful dark matter technology, could have simply demanded compliance. Instead, they listened to every voice. Back on Earth, Dr. Laura Patterson prepared for her own mission. As a xenoanthropologist, she had spent years studying different cultures. Now she would help explain humanity's approach to the wider galaxy. "I'm not sure I understand my role in this," she told General Hall during her briefing. "I'm a scientist, not a diplomat." General Hall smiled. "That's exactly why we need you, Laura. The galaxy doesn't just need to see our weapons. They need to understand our philosophy." "Philosophy?" Laura asked. "Yes. What makes humans different isn't just our dark matter technology. It's how we think about progress itself. The next day, Laura joined the talks at the space station. She brought with her data from Earth's history, showing how cooperation had accelerated human development. The Council's approach was to keep species separate and in competition, Laura explained to the gathered representatives. One advanced species dominating all others. But Earth's history shows a different path. She displayed images of scientific collaborations, international space missions, global research networks. When different groups with different perspectives work together, innovation happens faster. The Council's model actually slowed down progress, for everyone, including themselves. Many of the alien representatives seemed skeptical, but the evidence was hard to ignore. Humans had gone from a pre-space civilization to developing dark matter technology in just over a century. The Council's model had produced no similar breakthroughs in 1,000 years. As the talks progressed, a new structure began to take shape. The Galactic Cooperative would replace the Council, with all member species having equal voting rights. Advanced technology would be shared rather than hoarded, with safeguards to prevent misuse. Not everyone was happy with the new arrangement. Some former Council species refused to join, retreating to their home systems and closing their borders. Others reluctantly agreed, fearing Earth's power but seeing no alternative. The final agreement was signed after 2 weeks of negotiations. 23 species joined the new Galactic Cooperative. Earth, despite its military advantage, accepted the same voting power as everyone else. After the signing ceremony, Daniel Barnes met privately with representatives from the former Council leadership. "You could have destroyed us," said the Silurian delegate. "Why didn't you?" Daniel looked at him thoughtfully. "Because that's what you would have done. And we're trying to build something better." 6 months later, the first joint mission of the Galactic Cooperative prepared to launch. The ship was named Unity, built with both human dark matter technology and contributions from other member species. Captain Michelle Wright, daughter of Admiral Lisa Wright, would command the mission. At 32, she was young for such a responsibility, but her experience with dark matter drives made her the natural choice. "This isn't just an exploration mission," Michelle told her mixed crew of humans and aliens during their final briefing. "This is about showing the galaxy what cooperation can achieve." Her first officer, a Thalaxian named Jax, nodded in agreement. The old Council would never have allowed different species to serve together this way. The Unity's mission would take them beyond the borders of known space into regions the Council had never explored. Their charter was to seek out new civilizations and offer them membership in the cooperative, rather than conquest or subjugation. On the day of launch, thousands gathered to watch. The Unity was a beautiful ship, its sleek hull showing the distinctive patterns of dark matter technology, but also incorporating design elements from all member species. Dr. Alan Cooper, now much older but still active in research, stood beside Admiral Lisa Wright as they watched the ship prepare for departure. "Did you ever imagine this when you made your discovery?" Lisa asked him. Alan shook his head. "I was just trying to find a way to defend Earth. I never thought about what would come after." "That's the difference between us and the Council," Lisa said. "They only saw technology as a way to control others. We see it as a way to build something new." As the Unity departed, a message was broadcast across the galaxy. It came from all 23 members of the Galactic Cooperative speaking with one voice. "Today marks the beginning of a new era in galactic history. The era of conquest is over. The era of cooperation has begun. To all civilizations, known and unknown, we reach out not to dominate, but to connect. Not to conquer, but to learn. The stars belong to all of us." The Unity accelerated to speed, its dark matter drive glowing softly. On the bridge, Captain Michelle Wright gave the order to proceed to their first destination. Human and alien crew members worked side by side, their former differences forgotten. Earth's dark matter warships had indeed terrified the Galactic Council. But it was humanity's ideas, not just their weapons, that would truly change the galaxy forever. As they left known space behind, Michelle looked at the stars ahead. "The real journey is just beginning," she said quietly. No one who heard her could disagree. The air in the briefing room was cold and stale. Captain Lisa Warren looked at the faces of her crew one by one. They didn't know yet why they had been called here. She did, and the weight of that knowledge sat heavy on her shoulders. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "As of this morning, our mission parameters have changed. What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level." The room grew quiet. 20 of Earth's best space explorers, scientists, and military personnel exchanged nervous glances. Dr. Alan Nichols, a thin man with tired eyes that had seen too many late nights studying the stars, stepped forward to stand beside her. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his glasses. "The Horizon wasn't built just for solar system exploration," Captain Warren continued. "It was designed for one specific purpose: to cross the veil." A wave of whispers swept through the room. The veil was what everyone called the strange boundary that surrounded our solar system. No manned ship had ever returned from beyond it. 12 missions over 30 years, all gone without a trace. Officer Kelly Martinez, their navigation specialist, was the first to speak up. "Captain, with all due respect, that's a suicide mission. We all know the statistics." "I'm aware of the risks, Officer Martinez. We all are. But Dr. Nichols has a new theory about the veil that changes everything." "Doctor?" Nichols cleared his throat and tapped on his tablet. The room darkened, and a holographic display appeared in the center, showing a shimmering, shifting boundary of light. "For years we've assumed the veil is a natural phenomenon, some kind of energy field or spatial anomaly," Nichols began, his voice growing stronger as he spoke about his life's work. "But my research suggests it's artificial. It was created. And if something was created, it can be understood and passed through safely." Commander Sam Powell stood up from his seat in the back. His military posture never wavered as he walked to the front. "Let me be clear about what's at stake. Every ship we've sent has vanished. No distress calls, no debris fields, nothing. Just corrupted data packets that make no sense." "Almost nothing," Dr. Nichols corrected. "There was one message." Powell shot him a warning look, but Captain Warren nodded. "They deserve to know everything if they're going on this mission." Powell's jaw tightened, but he tapped his own tablet. A scratchy audio recording filled the room. "Cannot maintain. They are watching. Do not." Static swallowed the rest. "That came from the USS Endeavour 7 years ago," Powell said. 3 seconds of transmission, then nothing. Ever. Jack Dawson, the ship's engineer, had been quiet until now. He ran a hand through his messy brown hair and leaned forward. "That's why the Horizon has all those experimental systems I couldn't figure out. The quantum bubble generator, the phase-shifting shields. They're not for exploration. They're for survival." "Correct," Captain Warren said. "The Horizon is the most advanced ship humanity has ever built, specifically designed to do what no other ship has done: cross the veil and return." Dr. Mia Franklin, their xenobiologist, raised her hand. She was younger than most of the others, her face still carrying the hopeful expression of someone who believed in the good of the universe. "What do we expect to find on the other side? Just empty space? Or something else?" Dr. Nichols looked at Captain Warren before answering. "The corrupted data packets we've received contain fragments of images, structures, massive ones. There's something out there, Dr. Franklin, something big." Security Chief Frank Lambert folded his arms across his broad chest. "So we're potentially facing a hostile force that has destroyed 12 of our ships, and we're just going to fly right up and say hello?" "We don't know they're hostile," Captain Warren replied. "We don't know anything for certain. That's why we're going." Communications Officer Ryan Garcia, barely 25 and the youngest crew member, spoke up from his seat. "When do we leave?" 48 hours, Captain Warren answered. "Just enough time to make final preparations and say goodbye to loved ones." The room fell silent again as the reality sank in. They might never return. "I won't lie to you, Captain," Warren said, breaking the silence. This mission carries extreme risk. If any of you want to withdraw, you can do so without any mark on your record. No one would blame you. No one moved. Whether from duty, curiosity, or pride, they stayed in their seats. Dr. Nichols switched the display to show the horizon, their ship. Sleek and powerful, twice the size of any previous explorer vessel, with strange bulges and arrays that marked its experimental technology. The ship leaves in 48 hours, with or without you, Captain Warren said. Dismissed, as the crew filed out. Captain Warren remained behind with Dr. Nichols and Commander Powell. They took it better than I expected, Powell said. They're the best Earth has, Warren replied. That's why they were chosen. Dr. Nichols stared at the image of the veil still floating above the table. What if I'm wrong? What if it's not artificial? What if we can't get back? Captain Warren placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we'll have given Earth more data than any previous mission, and maybe the next ship will make it home. 2 days later, the Horizon left Earth's orbit. The mood on the ship was tense but focused. Each crew member had made their peace with the mission in their own way. As they passed Mars, Officer Martinez noted that they were making better time than expected. The Horizon's engines were performing beyond specifications. By the time they reached the outer planets, strange things began to happen. Equipment malfunctioned for no reason. Some crew members reported hearing whispers when no one was around. Security Chief Lambert found unknown energy signatures in empty corridors. It's starting, Dr. Nichols said when Captain Warren called a meeting about the incidents. The veil affects space and time around it. We're feeling its influence already. Can the ship handle it? She asked. It has to, Engineer Dawson replied. I've triple-checked every system. We're as ready as we'll ever be. A month into their journey, they saw it. The veil. From a distance, it looked like a shimmering curtain stretched across the stars. Beautiful. Alien. Terrifying. All hands to stations, Captain Warren ordered over the ship-wide comm. Prepare for boundary approach. This is what we came for. As the horizon moved closer, the ship's sensors began to fail one by one. The veil's shimmer grew brighter, filling the viewports with strange shifting light. Activating quantum bubble, Engineer Dawson called out, his fingers dancing across his console. The ship hummed as its experimental systems engaged. Everyone held their breath. Veil contact in 10 seconds, Officer Martinez announced. Captain. Warren gripped her chair arms. This was it. The moment that would either make history or add them to the long list of the missing. 5 seconds. 4. 3. 2. 1. The horizon touched the veil, and everything changed. The moment the horizon touched the veil, all lights on the ship went out. For 3 terrifying seconds, the crew floated in complete darkness. Then emergency power kicked in, bathing everyone in dim red light. Status report, Captain Warren called. Out, her voice cutting through the chaos of alarms and confused shouts. Main power down, backup systems at 60%, Engineer Dawson replied, his fingers moving rapidly across his console. Hull integrity holding, but the quantum bubble is failing. Officer Martinez stared at her navigation screen in disbelief. Captain, according to these readings, we're everywhere and nowhere at once. I can't get a fix on our position. The viewports showed only swirling, shifting patterns of light. Colors that didn't exist in normal space danced across the walls. Some crew members had to look away to avoid getting dizzy. The veil is thicker than we thought, Dr. Nichols said, checking his instruments. We're inside it now, not through it. Think of it as the space between spaces. Security Chief Lambert drew his sidearm when the ship's internal sensors picked up movement in empty corridors. We have intruders, he announced, his voice tight. That's impossible, Commander Powell said. We're sealed tight, and no one could survive out there. Dr. Franklin, the xenobiologist, studied her own readings with growing excitement. It might not be a physical presence, at least not in the way we understand it. The energy patterns I'm detecting suggest something more like consciousness. Captain Warren ordered a full security sweep anyway. The teams found nothing solid, but everyone reported the same strange feeling of being watched. Communications Officer Garcia sat at his station with headphones on, his young face pale and drawn. "Captain, I'm picking up transmissions, but they're wrong." "Wrong how?" Captain Warren asked. "They're in English, but they make no sense, and they're coming from inside the veil." He removed his headphones and let the strange messages play. Through the bridge speakers. "Return function invalid. Human parameters acceptable. Waiting for 87 cycles. Recalibration required." The voice sounded mechanical, yet somehow alive. "It's responding to our presence," Dr. Nichols said quietly. "The veil isn't just a barrier, it's aware. For 3 days the horizon drifted through the veil. Systems would fail and then mysteriously repair themselves. Crew members reported dreams of stars talking to them. Officer Martinez found herself able to predict system failures before they happened, as if she were developing a sixth sense. On the 4th day, Engineer Dawson made a discovery that changed everything. "Captain, you need to see this," he called from engineering. When Captain Warren arrived, he showed her what looked like a small window in the ship's hull, but instead of showing the swirling lights of the veil, it showed stars. Normal space. "Was running diagnostics on the quantum bubble generator when I noticed energy was being drawn to this spot," Dawson explained. "It's like the veil is thinner here, showing us what's on the other side." "Can we push through?" she asked. "Maybe, but the ship wasn't designed to handle this kind of stress. We could break apart." Captain Warren called a meeting of the senior crew. They gathered in the mess hall, the only space large enough to hold them all comfortably. "We have a chance to complete our mission," she told them. "But it comes with significant risk. I want opinions." Dr. Franklin spoke first. "Whatever is out there has been trying to communicate with us. I don't think it means us harm." "Then why did 12 ships disappear?" Security Chief Lambert countered. "Why no survivors?" "Maybe there were survivors," Dr. Nichols suggested. "Just not in a form we'd recognize." Commander Powell shook his head. "That doesn't help us decide what to do now." Officer Martinez had been unusually quiet. When she finally spoke, her voice was distant, as if part of her was somewhere else. "We need to go through. It's why we're here. It's why I've always been here." Everyone turned to look at her. "What do you mean by that, officer?" Captain Warren asked carefully. Martinez blinked and her eyes cleared. I don't know why I said that, but I'm certain we need to continue." They debated for hours. In the end, it was Engineer Dawson who provided the solution. "We can modify the quantum bubble to focus all its energy on that thin spot," he suggested. "It might give us enough of an opening to push through." The work took another 2 days. During that time, the strange occurrences on the ship increased. Tools would move on their own. Crew members would find notes written in their own handwriting that they had no memory of writing. The ship's computer began to display calculations no human had programmed. While they worked, Communications Officer Garcia continued to monitor the strange transmissions. Slowly, patterns emerged. The messages weren't random. They were instructions. "They're telling us how to get through," he told Captain Warren, his eyes wide with wonder. "All this time, they've been trying to help us." On the 7th day inside the veil, they were ready. The whole crew strapped into crash positions. The modified quantum bubble generator hummed louder than ever before. "All hands, prepare for breakthrough attempt," Captain Warren announced over the ship-wide comm. "If this works, we'll be the first humans to see what's beyond the veil and live to tell about it." Engineer Dawson initiated the sequence. The ship shuddered violently as the quantum bubble focused all its energy on the thin spot he had discovered. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a sound like tearing fabric filled the ship. The viewports went completely black. "Maximum power," Captain Warren ordered. The Horizon's engines strained to their limits. Warning lights flashed across every console. The hull groaned under forces it was never designed to withstand. "We're breaking through," Officer Martinez called out. Her voice, filled with both fear and excitement. A blinding flash of light filled the ship. When it faded, the crew found themselves staring at a sight no human had ever reported before. Stars. But not the stars they knew. These were brighter, closer, more numerous. And among them, massive structures that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. "We're through," Dr. Nichols whispered in awe. We made it. But their victory was short-lived. As the horizon drifted forward, they saw other ships floating in the strange space. Earth ships, the missing expeditions. They appeared intact but completely dead, like museum pieces placed carefully in the void. They made it through too, Commander Powell said. So why didn't they come back? Before anyone could answer, a new voice came, over the ship's comm system. It wasn't one of the crew. It sounded almost human, but with a strange musical quality that made the hairs on everyone's neck stand up. Welcome, Horizon, the voice said. We have been waiting for you. The bridge of the horizon went silent. Every crew member froze at the sound of the strange voice. It had spoken perfect English, yet something about it felt wrong, as if the words were being formed by something that had never known a human mouth. This is Captain Lisa Warren of the Earth vessel Horizon, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Who am I speaking with? There was a pause, then the voice returned. We are the gatekeeper. We maintain the boundary between developing species and the greater community. Dr. Nichols stepped forward. You created the Veil? Yes. Your people call it the Veil. Others have different names for it. It serves the same purpose for all. Captain Warren's mind raced with questions. What happened to our other ships? The ones that came before us? The massive structures they had seen earlier began to glow with soft blue light. One by one, the abandoned Earth ships started to move, pulled by invisible forces toward the nearest structure. They are preserved, the gatekeeper said, as all who fail the crossing are preserved. Security Chief Lambert raised his weapon instinctively, though there was nothing physical to aim at. Are we prisoners? No. You are guests. You are the first from your world to maintain your vessel's integrity through the crossing. This is significant. Dr. Franklin had been scanning the structures since they appeared. These readings? They're impossible. These structures are alive, Captain, or at least partly organic. Before anyone could respond to this revelation, the ship shuddered. A beam of light connected the horizon to the nearest structure. What are you doing to our ship? Commander Powell demanded. Stabilizing. Your technology cannot maintain cohesion in this space without assistance. Time flows differently here. Officer Martinez checked her instruments. Captain, according to our chronometers, we've been here for 3 minutes. But the readings from Earth suggest 3 weeks have passed there. The implications hit everyone at once. If they returned now, months or years might have passed on Earth. Their loved ones might have already mourned them and moved on. Why did you let us through when the others failed? Captain Warren asked. The gatekeeper's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once now. Your ship had the right protections, and your navigator had the right mind. All eyes turned to Officer Martinez, who looked as confused as everyone else. I don't understand, she said. You were born with a neural pattern compatible with our communication methods, the gatekeeper explained. You heard us when others could not. The instructions you followed came from within. Martinez paled. The course corrections I made, they felt right, but I couldn't explain why. Communications Officer Garcia suddenly called out from his station. Captain, I'm receiving signals from the other ships. They're not empty. He played the transmission through the speakers. It was filled with static, but they could make out words. Horizon, see you. Finally someone made it. The crews are alive, Captain Warren asked the gatekeeper, in a form. Their physical bodies could not survive the transition, but their consciousness remains. They chose to stay and help guide others. Dr. Nichols looked like he might faint. They're part of the Veil now. That's why we felt like we were being watched. They were watching us. The gatekeeper confirmed this. They became our helpers, our echoes. They understand human thought in ways we cannot. Engineer Dawson had been quiet, studying the beam connecting their ship to the structure. This connection is repairing our systems, but it's also changing them. Yes, the gatekeeper said. Your vessel must be adapted to exist here. Captain Warren didn't like the sound of that. And what about us? Are we being adapted too? Only if you choose to stay. You have three options. You may return to your solar system with basic knowledge of our existence. You may stay and become echoes, helping future travelers, or you may proceed deeper as your species' first true representatives. It was an impossible choice. Return with just enough information to frustrate Earth's scientists, become like the lost crews, or venture even further from home with no guarantee of ever returning. "We need time to discuss this," Captain Warren said. "Time works differently." Here, the gatekeeper reminded them, "Take what you need." The voice fell silent. The crew gathered in the conference room to debate their options. The arguments grew heated quickly. "We have a duty to return and report what we've found," Commander Powell insisted. "But we'd be going back with almost nothing," Dr. Nichols countered. "Just stories no one will believe." Security Chief Lambert pounded the table. "Our mission was to cross the veil and return, not to become aliens ourselves." "They're not asking us to become aliens," Dr. Franklin said. "Just to communicate in a different form." Officer Martinez had been drawing complex patterns on her tablet. When she spoke, her voice was distant again. "We don't all have to make the same choice." The idea hung in the air. Split the crew. Let each person decide their own fate. Captain Warren considered it carefully. It could work. Those who want to return can take the horizon back through the veil. Those who want to stay or go further, Dr. Franklin completed the thought, would become part of something greater than humanity has ever known. They talked for hours, each person wrestling with their own fears and desires. In the end, they took a vote. 7 would return to Earth. Captain Warren, Commander Powell, Security Chief Lambert, and 4 others. 5 would stay and become echoes. Dr. Nichols, Communications Officer Garcia, and 3 crew members who couldn't bear the thought of returning to an Earth where everyone they loved might already be gone. 8 would continue deeper into the unknown. Dr. Franklin, Officer Martinez, Engineer Dawson, and 5 others drawn by the promise of new discoveries. When they informed the gatekeeper of their decision, the voice seemed pleased. "This diversity of choice proves your species' readiness." "Readiness for what?" Captain Warren asked. "For the next phase. Earth has been isolated by the veil not to contain you, but to protect you while you developed. That time is ending. Others have noticed your world. This news sent a chill through everyone. Others? Are they threats? Some would see your resources as valuable, your planet as desirable. The veil has kept them away, but it cannot do so forever. Those who return must warn Earth. Those who become echoes will strengthen the veil. Those who proceed will learn what alliances you might form." Suddenly, their 3-way split made perfect sense. Each group had a vital mission. The gatekeeper gave them 1 day to prepare. The horizon would be modified to survive the return journey. Those staying would begin their transformation. Those continuing onward would be provided a suitable vessel. As they made their preparations, Captain Warren found Officer Martinez on the observation deck, staring at the massive structures. "Are you sure about your choice?" Warren asked her. Martinez nodded. "I've been dreaming of what's out there my whole life. I just didn't know it until now. I'll make sure Earth knows what you've done, all of you. And we'll make sure whatever's out there knows that humans are worth knowing," Martinez replied with a smile. They clasped hands, 2 explorers choosing different paths, but united in purpose. The next day, as the crew prepared to separate, the gatekeeper spoke to them one final time. "Remember this. No data returns from beyond Earth's border, not because it cannot, but because those who find what lies beyond choose a different path. The choice is what makes you ready." The modified horizon detached from the structure, ready for its return journey. The others said their goodbyes, each group facing a future none of them could have imagined when they left Earth. The horizon shuddered as it prepared to re-enter the veil. Captain Warren watched from the command chair as her reduced crew worked their stations. The ship felt empty now. Half the crew had stayed behind, choosing different paths. "Final systems. Check," she ordered, pushing away the sadness that threatened to overwhelm her. "All modified systems functioning at 90% capacity. reported one of the remaining engineers. The gatekeeper's changes are holding steady. Commander Powell stood beside her chair. Do you think we'll make it back? We have to, she replied simply. Earth needs to know what's coming. The horizon approached the veil from the other side now. It looked different from this angle, less like a barrier and more like a doorway. The swirling colors seemed almost inviting. Entering. In 3, 2, 1. The pilot counted down. The transition was smoother this time. There was a brief moment of disorientation, but the light stayed on and the systems remained stable. The gatekeeper's modifications worked perfectly. Once they were fully inside the veil, they noticed something new. Shapes moved within the swirling colors. Human shapes. The echoes, Commander Powell whispered. Our people who stayed behind. One of the shapes approached the viewport. Though its features were blurry, Captain Warren recognized Dr. Nichols. He raised a hand in farewell as the ship passed through. They're already changed, Security Chief Lambert said, his voice tight with emotion. So fast. Time works differently, here, Captain Warren reminded him. For them, it might have been years already. The journey back through the veil took only hours instead of days. When they emerged on the other side, back in their own solar system, their communication system immediately lit up with signals. Captain, we're receiving hundreds of transmissions from Earth, the remaining communications officer reported. According to their timestamps, we've been gone for 2 months. 2 months. Not as bad as they had feared, but still long enough for Earth to have given them up for dead. Open a channel to Earth Command, Captain Warren ordered. When the connection was established, the faces that greeted them were shocked. General Harris, the head of the space program, looked like he had seen a ghost. Horizon, is that really you? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Yes, sir. We've returned from beyond the veil, Captain Warren reported. But we bring urgent news. Earth is not as isolated as we thought, and we may face threats in the near future. As the Horizon made its way back to Earth, Captain Warren thought about her crew members who had chosen to become echoes, strengthening the veil to better protect humanity. She wondered if they regretted their choice yet, or if they had already forgotten what it meant to be human. Meanwhile, beyond the veil, Dr. Franklin and her group prepared for their journey deeper into the unknown. The gatekeeper had provided them with a new vessel, unlike anything built by human hands. It looked more grown than manufactured, with smooth organic curves and systems that responded to thought as much as touch. It's alive, Engineer Dawson said with wonder as he ran his hands over the controls, at least partly. Officer Martinez had adapted to the new environment faster than the others. Since arriving, her connection to the gatekeeper had grown stronger. She understood things the others didn't, almost as if she had always belonged here. The ship is called the Pathfinder, she told them. In their language, it means one who makes safe the way for others. Their language? Dr. Franklin asked. You can understand it now? Martinez nodded. More and more, it's like it was always in my head, but I couldn't hear it until now. The 8 humans who had chosen to continue were given 3 days to learn their new ship before departing. The gatekeeper explained that they would be traveling to what humans might call a hub, a meeting place of many species. You will be the first humans many have encountered, the gatekeeper warned them. How you behave will shape how your species is perceived. Dr. Franklin took this responsibility seriously. As a xenobiologist, she had spent her career preparing for alien contact. Now she would be the alien, arriving in someone else's world. Need to establish protocols, she told the others. Rules for interaction, communication guidelines, contingency plans. Engineer Dawson was more concerned with understanding their new ship. This technology is centuries beyond ours, maybe millennia. I'm not sure I can fix it if something goes wrong. You won't need to fix it in the way you understand repairs, Martinez explained. The ship heals itself when damaged. It just needs the right energy. The third group, those who had chosen to become echoes, experienced the most dramatic, changes. Dr. Nichols and Communications Officer Garcia found their consciousness expanding beyond their physical bodies. They could sense the veil in its entirety, could feel the other echoes who had once been human. "I can see forever," Garcia said, his voice no longer coming from a human throat, but rippling through the veil itself. "I can feel Earth on one side, and the vastness on the other." Dr. Nichols had worried he would lose himself in the transition, that his identity would dissolve. Instead, he found himself more aware than ever before. He could perceive dimensions he hadn't known existed, and he could feel the threats the gatekeeper had warned about. Other intelligences probing the veil, looking for weaknesses. "They're coming," he told the other echoes. "Sooner than we thought." Together, the former humans worked to strengthen the veil, using their understanding of their own species to create better protections. They reached out to the horizon as it passed through, sharing what they had learned in the time-distorted space of the veil. Captain Warren received these impressions as strange dreams during the return journey. She saw shadowy fleets gathering, worlds burned clean of life, resources stripped away. But she also saw potential allies, species that had faced similar threats and survived, knowledge that could help Earth prepare. When the horizon finally reached Earth orbit, they were met by a fleet of ships, not the welcome they had expected but a precaution. No one had believed they would return. "Horizon, maintain position," came the order from Earth Command. "Prepare to be boarded and quarantined." Captain Warren understood their caution. "Acknowledged, Command. We have critical information about what lies beyond the veil. Earth needs to prepare." As the quarantine team approached in their sealed shuttles, Captain Warren looked out at the blue-green planet below. Home, still innocent of what waited beyond its borders, still unaware that its isolation was ending. "We made it back," Commander Powell said, standing beside her. "But everything has changed, hasn't it?" She nodded. "This is just the beginning. The real journey starts now." 6 months after the Horizon's return, Earth was a changed world. The quarantine had lasted only 2 weeks before the urgency of Captain Warren's message forced Earth's leaders to act. The data they brought back about potential threats beyond the veil had sparked a global effort unlike anything since the early space race. Captain Warren stood at the window of the newly built Space Defense Headquarters, watching ships take off from the nearby launch facility. Each one carried improved versions of the technology that had allowed the Horizon to survive the veil. "Admiral Warren," a voice called from behind her. She still wasn't used to her new rank. She turned to see Commander Powell, now Captain Powell, walking toward her with a tablet in hand. "The latest reports from our scout ships," he said, handing it to her. She scanned the information quickly. 10 more ships had been sent toward the veil in the past month. All had made contact with the echoes. None had gone beyond. "Still no word from Dr. Franklin's team?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Powell shook his head. "Nothing direct. But the echoes say they're alive and making progress." The echoes had become Earth's most valuable asset. Though physically gone, they maintained contact through dreams and occasional brief messages that came through the veil. They warned of approaching dangers and guided Earth's preparations. "The Defense Council meets in 10 minutes, Powell reminded her. "They'll want your assessment of the new shield technology." Warren nodded and took one last look at the ships launching into the sky. Earth was arming itself, not just with weapons, but with knowledge. The isolation was over, and humanity refused to be found unprepared. Beyond the veil, the former humans who had become echoes had created a new layer of protection around Earth's solar system. Dr. Nichols, whose consciousness now extended throughout, the veil itself could feel the approach of alien minds, curious and sometimes hostile. "They're testing us again," he communicated to the others who shared his non-physical existence. His thoughts no longer required words, but he still thought, in human concepts. Garcia, once a communications officer and now a pattern of energy within the veil, responded immediately. "The 4th probe this month. They're getting more persistent." Together with the other echoes, they created distortions that confused the probe's sensors. It was like hiding Earth behind a curtain of false data. The probe eventually retreated, but they knew more would come. We need to warn Earth, Nichols thought. The strategies are changing. These aren't just scouts anymore. They gathered their collective energy and sent a pulse through the veil, a message that would reach the dreaming minds of those they had once known. The warning was simple: prepare faster. Time is running out. Even farther beyond, Dr. Franklin and her team had reached the hub the gatekeeper had told them about. The Pathfinder had traveled for what felt like weeks to them, though they knew time flowed differently in this space. When they arrived, the sight left them speechless. The hub was a massive structure that seemed to float in the void between stars. It was shaped like a wheel with countless spokes reaching outward. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it in complex patterns. Some were tiny, barely visible specks. Others were so large they could swallow Earth's moon. "It's incredible," Dr. Franklin whispered as they approached. "So many different designs, different technologies." Officer Martinez sat at the controls of the Pathfinder, her eyes half closed as she communicated with the ship. "They're directing us to a docking port, one reserved for new species." The 8 humans looked at each other. They were about to become the representatives of their entire species to this galactic community. Engineer Dawson had spent their journey studying the ship's systems. "Remember what the gatekeeper told us. How we behave will shape how humanity is perceived." They docked with the hub and prepared to disembark. The airlock opened to reveal a wide corridor with walls that shifted colors subtly. A figure waited. For them. Humanoid in shape, but clearly not human. Its skin shimmered with a metallic blue sheen, and its eyes were large and entirely black. "Welcome, humans," it said in perfect English. "I am Nara, your guide. The council awaits you." Dr. Franklin stepped forward as their chosen spokesperson. "Thank you for receiving us. We come seeking knowledge and friendship." Nara inclined its head. "Those are good things to seek, but I must warn you, not all here will believe your intentions. Earth has been isolated for a reason, and some believe it should remain so." As they followed Nara through the hub, they saw creatures of all descriptions. Some noticed them and stopped to stare. Others seemed to avoid them deliberately. "Why has Earth been isolated?" Dr. Franklin asked. "That is for the council to explain," Nara replied. "But I can tell you that your world sits at an important crossroads of space. Many would claim it if they could." They were led to a vast chamber where beings sat in a tiered circle. Some appeared almost human. Others were so alien the humans couldn't even guess at their biology. "The human delegation may approach," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. As they stepped forward, images appeared in the air above them. Earth, the solar system, the veil. "Your kind has breached the quarantine barrier," said one of the council members, a tall, thin being with silvery skin. "This is unexpected. We seek to understand why it was placed there," Dr. Franklin replied, "and to learn our place in the wider universe." Another council member, who looked like a collection of floating crystals, spoke next. "Earth sits at the junction of 3 territories long disputed. The quarantine was placed to prevent you from becoming pawns in a conflict you could not understand. But others have found you now," added a third voice. "The protective measures are failing. We must decide whether to abandon Earth to its fate or extend our protection in more direct ways." The humans looked at each other in alarm. This was not the welcome they had expected. "We don't need to be abandoned or controlled," Dr. Franklin said firmly. "We can be allies, partners. Earth is learning quickly. We have already strengthened the veil with our own people. We call them the Echoes." This caused a stir among the council. They conferred in sounds and signals the humans couldn't understand. Finally, the first council member spoke again. "This is unprecedented. No protected species has ever contributed to their own quarantine field before." "Humans adapt," Officer Martinez said simply. "It's what we do best." Back on Earth, Admiral Warren woke suddenly from a deep sleep. The warning from the Echoes had reached her as a vivid dream. She immediately called an emergency session of the Defense Council. As Earth's leaders gathered, she delivered the message. The time for preparation is over. They're coming. Within hours, Earth's new defense fleet took position near the Veil. They were met by strange distortions in space, the echoes, making themselves visible for the first time. And as the first alien probe broke through the Veil, humanity stood ready, not alone but as part of something much larger than they had ever imagined. The barrier had never been meant to keep them in, but to give them time to become what they needed to be. No data returned from beyond Earth's border, not because no one survived, but because those who went beyond found a greater purpose. And now, that purpose had come home.